Hello, boys and girls. How are you today? Today, the first story is Arthur's Birthday by Mark Brown. I can't wait, said Arthur. Are you sure it's only Tuesday? See for yourself, said Mother. 4 more days until my birthday, said Arthur. I hope everyone can come to my birthday party. What kind of cake should I bake? Asked Grandma Nora. Chocolate, said Arthur. Have a good day at school, said Mother, smiling away. And don't forget to hand out your invitations, said D.W. Buster, can you come to my party? Asked Arthur. Are you kidding? Said Buster. Of course. Grandma's making chocolate cake, said Arthur. I'll be there, said Brian. I love chocolate. How about me? Asked Binky Barnes. You're invited, said Arthur, and Francine too. Oh boy, said Francine, we can play spin the bottle. Muffy, can you come to my birthday party? Arthur asked. Sure, Muffy answered. When is it? Saturday afternoon, Arthur said. I can't wait. This Saturday afternoon? But that's when I'm having my party, said Muffy. Oh no, said Arthur, you can't. Can't you change your party to another day? Are you kidding? Said Muffy. The rock band and Pickles the Clown have been booked for months. I can't change my party either, said Arthur. All of my relatives are coming from Ohio. No one knew what to do. Should they go to Arthur's birthday party or Muffy's? Wednesday before school, the boys had a meeting. I think we should stick together, said Buster. Me too, said Binky. Right, said Brian. We're all going to Arthur's party. But what about the girls? Asked Arthur. Who needs girls? Said Buster. The girls met at the playground during lunch. Anyone who doesn't come to my party can't be my friend, said Buffy. But it won't be as much fun without the boys, said Francine. Are you my friend or not? Asked Muffy. Thursday after school, Arthur and his mother picked out decorations for the party. Later, the delivery man brought a big box. Wow, this weighs a ton, said D.W. In the mail, there were 3 birthday cards from Arthur. One was from Uncle Bud, and when Arthur opened it, $3 bills fell out. Some people have all the luck, said D.W. On the way home from school Friday, Arthur ran to catch up with Francine. I wish you could come to my party, said Arthur. I promised Muffy, said Francine, but I wish I could go to both. What's a party without the boys? Wait a minute, said Arthur, I have an idea. And he whispered his idea to Francine. That's great, said Francine. I'll help. They ran to Arthur's treehouse. Arthur found pencils, papers, and envelopes. Let me write them, said Francine. It has to look like Muffy's handwriting. Okay, said Arthur, but be sure there's one for all the girls. That night, Arthur told his parents about his plan. Early the next morning, Arthur and Francine delivered their notes, one to Prunella, one to Sue Ellen, and one to Fern. The last note they delivered was a special one. All done, said Arthur. See you later, said Francine. And the note says, Dear Muffy, I have a special present for you. It is so big I can't carry it by myself. Please come to my house today at noon to get it. Sincerely, Arthur. I smell pancakes, said Arthur when he got home. Your favorite, said Father. And maple syrup all the way from Ohio, said Aunt Bonnie. Happy birthday, said Cousin George. Time for birthday kisses, said Mother. And 8 birthday hugs, said Grandma Nora. And don't forget a pinch to grow an inch, said D.W. Arthur stood by the window. It was almost noon. Someone's coming, he cried. It was Sue Ellen. What are you doing here? Asked Sue Ellen. What are you doing here? Asked Buster. It's a surprise for Muffy, said Francine, coming up behind them. It's a surprise for all of us, said the brain. Everyone find a place to hide, said Arthur. Muffy will be here any minute. Shh, whispered Buster. Here she comes. Arthur opened the door. Hi, Arthur. I came to pick up my present, said Muffy. Surprise! Everyone shouted. Happy birthday, Muffy, said Arthur. See, I told you your present is too big to carry. The rest of your party is on the way, said Francine. After all, said Arthur, what's a birthday party without all your friends? This is the best birthday ever. We should do this every year. But next year at your house, said Arthur's mom. Time to open presents, said Francine. I picked this one out especially for you. You have to promise you'll use it right away. Sure, said Arthur. I can't wait. Happy birthday, Arthur. And it says inside, it says, Francine's Spin the Bottle game. So Francine wanted to play Spin the Bottle. The end. Let's see. The next story is called Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, and it's by William Steig. Sylvester Duncan lived with his mother and father at Acorn Road in Oatsdale. One of his hobbies was collecting pebbles of unusual shape and color. On a rainy Saturday during vacation, he found an extraordinary one. It was flaming red, shiny, and perfectly round, like a marble. As he was studying the remarkable pebble, he began to shiver, probably from excitement, and the rain felt cold on his back. "I wish it would stop raining," he said. To his great surprise, the rain stopped. It didn't stop gradually, as rain usually do. It ceased. The drops vanished on the way down, the clouds disappeared, everything was dry, and the sun was shining as if rain had never existed. In all his young life, Sylvester had never had a wish gratified so quickly. It struck him that the magic must be at work, and he guessed that the magic must be in the remarkable-looking red pebble, where indeed it was. To make a test, he put the pebble on the ground and said, "I wish it would rain again." Nothing happened. But when he said the same thing holding the pebble in his hoof, the sky turned black, there was lightning and a clap of thunder, and the rain came shooting down. "What a lucky day this is," thought Sylvester. "From now on, I can have anything I want. My mother and father can have anything they want. My relatives, my friends, and anybody at all can have anything anybody wants." He wished the sunshine back in the sky, and he wished a wart on his left fetlock would disappear, and it did. And he started to go home, eager to amaze his mother and father with his magic pebble. He could hardly wait to see their faces. Maybe they wouldn't believe him at first. As he was crossing Strawberry Hill, thinking of some of the many, many things he could wish for, he was startled to see a mean, hungry lion looking right at him from behind some tall grass. He was frightened. If he hadn't been so frightened, he could have made the lion disappear, or he could have wished himself safe at home with his father and mother. He could have wished the lion would turn into a butterfly or a daisy or a gnat. He could have wished many things, but he panicked and he couldn't think carefully. "I wish I were a rock," he said, and he became a rock. The lion came bounding over, sniffed the rock 100 times, walked around and around it, and went away, confused, perplexed, puzzled, and bewildered. "I saw that little donkey as clear as day. Maybe I'm going crazy," he muttered. And there was Sylvester, a rock on Strawberry Hill, with the magic pebble lying right beside him on the ground, and he was unable to pick it up. "Oh, how I wish I were myself again," he thought, but nothing happened. He had to be touching the pebble to make the magic work, but there was nothing he could do about it. His thoughts began to race like mad. He was scared and worried. He was feeling helpless, and he felt hopeless. He imagined all the possibilities, and eventually he realized that his only chance of becoming himself again was for someone to find the red pebble and to wish that the rock next to it would be a donkey. Someone would surely find the red pebble. It was so bright and shiny. But what on earth would make them wish that a rock or a donkey? The chance was a billion and one at best. Sylvester fell asleep. What else could he do? Night came with many stars. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan paced the floor, frantic with worry. Sylvester had never come home later than dinner time. Where could he be? They stayed up all night wondering what happened, expecting that Sylvester would surely turn up by morning, but he didn't, of course. Mrs. Duncan cried a lot, and Mr. Duncan did his best to soothe her. Both longed to have their dear son with him. "I will never scold Sylvester as long as I live," said Mrs. Duncan, "no matter what he does." At dawn, they went about inquiring of all their neighbors. They talked to all the children, the puppies, the kittens, the colts, the piglets. No one had seen Sylvester since the day before. They went to the police. The police could not find their child. All the dogs in Oatsdale were searching for him. They sniffed behind every rock and tree and blade of grass, into every nook and gully of the neighborhood and beyond, but found not a scent of him. They sniffed the rock on Strawberry Hill, but it smelled like a rock. It didn't smell like Sylvester. After a month of searching the same places over and over again and inquiring of the same animals over and over again, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan no longer knew what they could do. They concluded that something dreadful must have happened and that they would probably never see their son again, though all the time he was less than a mile away. They tried their best to be happy, to go about their usual ways, but their usual ways included Sylvester, and they were always reminded of him. They were miserable. Life had no meaning for them anymore. Night followed day, and day followed night, over and over again. Sylvester on the hill woke up less and less often, and when he was awake, he was only hopeless and unhappy. He felt he would be a rock forever, and he tried to get used to it. He went into an endless sleep. The days grew colder. Fall came with the leaves changing color. Then the leaves fell, and the grass bent to the ground. Then it was winter. The winds blew this way and that. It snowed. Mostly the animals stayed indoors, living on the food they had stored up. One day, a wolf sat on the rock that was Sylvester and howled because he was hungry. Then the snows melted. The earth warmed up in the spring sun, and things budded. Leaves were on the trees again. Flowers showed their young faces. One day in May, Mr. Duncan insisted that his wife go with him on a picnic. "Let's cheer up," he said. "Let's try to live again and be happy even though Sylvester, our angel, is no longer with us." They went to Strawberry Hill. Mrs. Duncan sat down on the rock. The warmth of his own mother sitting on him woke Sylvester up from his deep winter sleep. How he wanted to shout, "Father, Mother, it's me, Sylvester, I'm right here." But he couldn't talk. He had no voice. He was stone dumb. Mr. Duncan walked aimlessly about, while Mrs. Duncan set out the picnic food on the rock. Alfalfa sandwiches, pickled oats, sassafras salad, Timothy compote. Suddenly, Mr. Duncan saw the red pebble. "What a fantastic pebble!" he exclaimed. "Sylvester would have loved it for his collection." He put the pebble on the rock. They sat down to eat. Sylvester was now as wide awake as a donkey that was a rock could possibly be. Mrs. Duncan felt some mysterious excitement. "You know, Father," she said suddenly, "I have the strangest feeling that our dear Sylvester is still alive and not far away." I am, Sylvester wanted to shout, but he couldn't. If only he had realized that the pebble resting on his back was the magic pebble. "Oh, how I wish he were here with us on this lovely May day," said Mrs. Duncan. Mr. Duncan looked sadly at the ground. "Don't you wish it too, Father?" she said. He looked at her as if to say, "How can you ask such a question?" Mr. and Mrs. Duncan looked at each other with great sorrow. "I wish I were myself again. I wish I were my real self again," thought Sylvester. And in less than an instant, he was. You can imagine the scene that followed. The embraces, the kisses, the hugs, the questions, the answers, the loving looks, and the fond exclamations. When they eventually calmed down a bit and had gotten home, Mr. Duncan put the magic pebble in an iron safe. Someday they might want to use it, but really for now, what more could they wish for? They all had all that they wanted. Altogether, the end. Okay, that's it for today. Have a good day, and I will see you next time.